right, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with us today. We're super excited to celebrate CX Day with you guys, and we're very excited for this presentation. I think a lot of you are going to find it really interesting and informative. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. We're going to be talking about AI and CX made easy today, some key strategies to prevent common and costly mistakes. So I'll run through the agenda with y'all really quick. So just going to go through a brief introduction of our speaker today. We're going to talk about the urgency of AI innovation, which I'm sure y'all have heard a lot about this year. We're going to go through our 5-step AI playbook, a little solution overview of our products, a demo, and then we'll save Q&A at the end, but please feel free to utilize the chat box. At any point during the webinar, I'm happy to answer any questions or save them at the end. So with all of that being said, our speaker today is going to be Dion Nicholas, and I will let Dion come on and introduce himself and get things started.
Hello, Katie. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. It is CX Day, where we celebrate customer experience across every industry and the importance of customer experience in your business. Today, as Katie mentioned, we are going to be talking through 5 key strategies to help you avoid costly mistakes when leveraging AI in CX. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce myself first and foremost and our company Forethought, and then we'll dive in. So just to kick things off, I'm Dion Nicholas. I am the CEO and co-founder of Forethought, and we are building the most advanced generative AI agent for customer support. Now, there's a lot of buzz around AI. There's a lot of buzz around AI agents, AI and CX. What does it all mean, and why do we claim to be the most advanced? What does that mean? Well, first and foremost, we like to think about customer service AI in terms of levels. The same way there's 5 stages of autonomous cars or whatever analogy you can think of. We think that most AI in the world is based around simple FAQ-based questions, so the ability to answer simple knowledge. We like to take this a step further. When you have questions that require account lookups, when you have questions that require issuing refunds, issuing transactions, you need an AI that can almost operate like a human agent. We like to call that agentic AI, which is a term I think you're going to start hearing a lot throughout the industry. But that is AI that can reason, can plan, make decisions, ask follow-up questions, troubleshoot hard actions or troubleshoot hard problems, and hit APIs and so on, and really resolve complex issues end to end. And we at Forethought are probably the only fully agentic AI in the world. And that's through our technology we call Autoflows, which is a natural language way of teaching an AI to operate like a human agent. Our second secret sauce is that our models are fine-tuned and trained on your data, completely redacted in terms of PII and things like that, but it allows you to have AI that can truly learn from your workflows, from your agents, so that your agents who are answering questions every day are the AI experts and can also resolve issues specific to your business. And then the last is that we consider ourselves a complete AI solution for CX. So we talk a lot about the AI chatbot use case to resolve customer issues, but you should also be using AI to learn from your data, generate insights, recommendations, and so on, which we call discovery, and also to assist your human agents. And so Forethought is a platform that can do all of these things. Thank you for joining us today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And now let's dive into our key topic for today. We're going to be talking about the 5 key strategies to enable you to deploy AI for customer support without common and costly mistakes that every support leader may go through in their tenure. To start, let's talk about the urgency of AI innovation in customer support. AI is a buzzword now more than ever, and every single support leader is getting pressure from boards and from their CEOs to deploy AI in customer experience. I actually like to think that AI for customer experience is going to be one of the single largest software categories on the planet, and one of the most impactful categories to any business. Why is that? Well, support is the front end of your business. It is where customers go whenever they have a question, whenever they have a problem. It always lands with the customer experience team. So there's a wealth of knowledge, of insights, and also opportunities to make amazingly delightful experiences for your customers. The second is that this is where a lot of the data lies, right? The support can tell the product team what they should be doing, what's going wrong, and what's coming next. And then lastly, support is where you have those micro moments to generate outstanding experiences. 51% of customers expect a chat response within minutes. That means half of your customers want you to respond instantaneously to their problems. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. And 76% of customers expect some level of personalization when they interact with customer support. They want you to know who they are, know their problems, potentially anticipate and be proactive in those problems. And 87% of support teams say customer expectations have increased year over year. And this is only going to get bigger, right? With the advent of AI, people no longer want to just deal with rote chatbots. People no longer want to deal with agents who don't know who they are, who don't have information. They want to deal with agents who know everything about them, are extremely knowledgeable. And when they have to deal with AI, they want that AI to work and they want it to be very quick and accurate. So the urgency for AI is as high now as it has ever been. But there are so many ways you can go wrong. There's so many questions you might have about whether to deploy, for example, should I adopt AI at all, right? That is question number one in our playbook. The second question you might have is, okay, if I'm going to adopt AI, should I be building AI myself? Should I be launching a large language model, building out an entire machine learning team or an LLM team in order to do this? Or should I be working with a vendor or with a consultancy? The third question you might have is, should I leverage my help desk add-on? If all AI is the same, well, why not just use the AI that's built into my CRM or something like that? Well, we're going to answer this question definitively as well. Fourth question you may have is, should I go with generic AI built on public data, such as a large language model that's publicly available? Or should I have something that is specially fine-tuned and custom to myself? And lastly, should I go with a dedicated solution? That means AI that is specific for customer service versus something else. These are the 5 key questions that we get time and time again when we talk to customer support and customer experience leaders. And these are the questions we sought out to solve for. Before jumping in, I do want to say that in order to solve this question and on these 5 questions, what we did was we actually surveyed around 1,000 different customer experience leaders and customer experience teams to figure out what they're doing and how they're feeling about AI. This has been published in our benchmark, our AI and CX benchmark report, which I'll link to at the end of this session. But there is a wealth of information in this benchmark report. And to our knowledge, it is the first of its kind, a completely independent AI and CX benchmark report launched by an AI and CX vendor not tied to any specific help desk or CRM or anything like that. And so hopefully after this webinar, you'll have a chance to dive in yourself. But that being said, let's start with those 5 key questions that we uncovered through our survey. So question number 1, should I adopt AI? Well, when we looked at the data, we looked at the range of companies who are either currently using AI versus not using AI and sectioned this or segmented this by company size. And what we found is that about half of companies are already using AI in some way. And to many people, AI is an experiment. But when it comes to customer experience, AI is actually starting to drive real results. And so the answer to this question is actually a definitive yes. AI can analyze customer behavior and your customer support patterns so that you can deliver insights back to your product teams, your sales teams, and other folks within the CX organization. AI can be proactive. It can identify potential problems through all the data that can enable you to actually proactively reach out to your customers or proactively offer support. And lastly, AI actually helps you optimize your decision-making by leveraging all of the historical and real-time customer data. So that means the questions that your customers are asking, that means all of the past conversations that your agents have had, and that also means the chatbots or agents that you're leveraging as well. All of these things are driving real value in support orgs today. So if you're just getting started and not sure whether the investment is worth it, based on our findings, we found that AI in CX is driving real and tangible impact. The next question that we sought out to explore is, should I build AI myself? Now, this is, I think, a common question and can have a few common pitfalls. You've probably seen some of the largest organizations on the planet. We've seen folks like Klarna and Affirm and others in the news where they've launched their own AI bot after building it in-house. Well, one of the things we want to say is that though those stories are really exciting and really interesting, there is a lot of nuance and a lot of details under the hood if you are planning to build an AI yourself. The first thing is that building an AI yourself sets up extremely high expectations. Many people think, well, I've got an LLM, I can go and apply this to my knowledge base and use a technology called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, to then build an AI bot. Well, it turns out that while these things look really shiny in theory and can make very cool demos, it actually is a far cry from being able to deploy true AI to your customers. As I mentioned at the beginning of this call, knowledge-based questions, FAQs, being able to answer questions based on a knowledge base, those are actually the simplest and easiest problems. So those typically only get you 10 or 20% of resolution or deflection rates. The majority of problems that a customer support or a customer experience team faces require deep action and insight. Imagine things like account lookups, imagine things like refunds, or where's my order, or even, hey, how do I change my policy on this in insurance? All of these things require deep domain knowledge that a simple RAG or retrieval-based knowledge bot will not be able to handle. So what that means is if you go and build these things yourself, you're often going to only end up with a bot that can handle very, very simple questions, whereas the long tail of very complex questions are not going to be handled. And so what you're doing is you're setting up high expectations. It looks easy to deploy, but you're going to end up ultimately leaving your customers unsatisfied and having to talk to an agent anyway. The second issue with building things yourself is that this can lead to a long timeline. Again, it seems very, very simple, and we're actually extremely grateful. I think the entire industry is grateful for ChatGPT and these language models that have made it really easy to build your basic AI tools. The problem is, once you've started to invest resources, when you go from there, it actually creates a longer and longer time horizon in order to get to the very complex problems. And so this can actually lead to long implementation cycles and long timelines. Nearly half of companies we surveyed without an AI solution are actually unsure about the timelines for implementation. So if you're trying to deploy AI for the first time, we actually don't recommend that you build it yourself. And then the last reason for this is that it requires deep expertise and a lot of costs. The average AI engineer in the United States is paid about $150,000. And oftentimes you don't just have one engineer, but you actually have teams of engineers. Not only so, but you're often building these projects alongside LLM vendors who have specialized infrastructure or consultancies such as the big four folks. And so what ends up happening is these solutions end up costing millions and millions of dollars when you add it all up in order to provide an experience that might only end up getting you 10 or 20% resolution rate. And so based on all of the survey results, all of the folks we've surveyed, from the C-suite to directors to managers who are looking at their top concerns, we have actually found that the answer to should I build AI myself is actually no for most companies. While some companies who are the largest, who have extremely large budgets, can build these things themselves and get a 10 or 20% deflection rate, and that can also lead to millions in savings, that is not true for the vast majority of companies we have seen. In most cases, you should not build AI yourself. All right, let's talk about the next common question we get, and that is, should I leverage my help desk add-on? One of the things we're seeing in this space is a bifurcation. You're seeing dedicated AI vendors who are going in and building out these solutions, but you're also seeing a lot of existing products tack on AI. And that's not just in your CRM or your help desk, but you're probably leveraging other workflow tools from your knowledge base to your calendar. All of the tools that we use every single day as professionals are going to be throwing some amount of AI into their suite. But the note is, or the question is all AI created equal? And so let me pause and return again to what I think are the three kind of stages of AI out there. The first is AI chatbot. And what we mean by that is chatbots that can answer basic instructions, chatbots that are coded by decision trees and rules, and that get you a lot of your workflow. But as we know from decades and decades of dealing with horrible chatbots, they aren't very good. And so this is the class of AI bots that we've had for decades. Now, with the advent of generative AI, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing now a proliferation of AI technology that we call retrieval AI, or retrieval augmented generation, which I like to call RAGs for short. What that means is AI that can take a large language model, an out-of-the-box model like a GPT or a Claude or others, and are applying that to your public knowledge base. And when you think of AI, and I want to stress this, in the last year and a half, 2 years since we've seen the advent of the Gen AI boom, when you think of AI, you are most likely thinking about this AI, which is retrieval AI, retrieval augmented generation, or RAGs. You're going to see tons of solutions, again, from your CRM to your help desk to AI in customer support, that are taking language models and applying them to your knowledge base. The beauty of retrieval augmented generation, or RAG-based AI, is that it allows you to get that smooth, almost witty customer experience that you come to expect from something like a GPT, but you can actually apply that to your personal, your business's public knowledge base so that it will not hallucinate, right? The key problem with LLMs without this is that LLMs typically make up answers when they don't know the answer, and they say it pretty confidently. For a business, that's a big no-no if you're answering a customer support question. So we have seen this rise of this retrieval augmented generation, or LLMs that can answer from your public knowledge base. Now, again, as I mentioned before, this kind of AI is going to become the most popular kind of AI today. The only problem with this approach is that it only gets you so far. Frequently asked questions, knowledge-oriented questions, how-tos, and simple information questions are the kinds of questions you can answer with this retrieval AI. The whole reason we had AI chatbots of the past, decision trees and things like that, were so that we could automate workflows. So right now with these two kinds of AIs, you're actually choosing between a trade-off. AI chatbots with decision trees, which can take action but are horrible experiences while giving you the control, versus retrieval or RAG-based AI, which leverage generative AI, give you a beautiful customer experience, make you feel like you're talking almost to a human, but they can't go deep on the workflows. The third and most powerful class of AI are AI agents, or what I like to call agentic AI, as mentioned at the beginning of this webinar. Agentic AI is AI that is trained with natural language, that is fully generative, but can use the same generative AI technology to go and make make plans, reasons, make decisions, hit APIs, and deeply explore workflows, just like a decision tree chatbot would, but without the decision trees. And that is the most powerful form of AI, the kind of AI that gets you to 60, 70, or 80% in terms of your deflection rate or resolution rates. Many of you out there, probably listening on this call, can recall the kinds of issues that you don't think AI can solve today, that you don't think RAGs can solve today. These are, again, refunds, changing account passwords, going in and changing something in a database, negotiating cancellations or things like that to have the AI actually try to save a customer before they cancel. All of these are things that can be done with a truly agentic AI on your behalf, but cannot be done with a retrieval AI. And so AI agents are actually the most powerful kind of technology, and they give you the best of both worlds, the control of the chatbots, along with the smooth experience of the retrieval AI, while allowing you to go a lot further. Now, the reason I really want to call out this distinction is because this agentic AI is something that is fairly new that most vendors are not offering, particularly the help desk vendors. Most vendors today, especially those that are tacking on AI, are leveraging either the AI chatbot technology or the retrieval technology. So ultimately, this means you have to make the trade-off. You're very likely to get to 10 or 20% deflection rate, which again, for some companies can be powerful, but you are sacrificing all of the actions, deep workflows, API-based read and write type issues that you could get with a dedicated AI agent like a Forethought. And so in the end, so this is a qualified question. If you are okay with very simple knowledge-oriented questions, then it is actually totally fine. If you want to get the 10 or 20% deflection rate, it is totally fine to go with a help desk add-on. But if you have a reasonably complex business, if you're in e-commerce, if you are a SaaS company with software troubleshooting, things like that, if you're in fintech or really any other business that requires transactions, healthcare, things like that, you are more likely going to need an AI agent, or what I like to call an agentic AI, because a lot of people are using the phrase AI agent incorrectly. The word I like to use is agentic AI, and ask your vendor about that. That can go really deep. And we'll be demoing shortly our Autoflows technology, which allows you to train these agentic AIs in a heartbeat. All right, so the third question is, should I go with a dedicated solution? One moment, make sure I'm on the right slide here. Oh, sorry. Question number 3. Yes. Should I go with generic AI built on public data? Now, this is an interesting question that we get all the time. Does it matter what data your AI is trained on, right? So LLMs like think ChatGPT, Claude, and other AI technology are typically trained first and foremost on public data. That means internet data that anyone has access to. Now, why is this important? Well, the breadth of data allows us to train these large language models, these neural networks, to learn human language. So they can do things like translations, they can understand English or French or Spanish or whatever data set is available on the internet. They can understand how to speak like a human. And so this is really important because this gives the AI that base level of, call it IQ, that you would need to solve any problem. Now, the only problem with public data is that it's just like hiring, for example, a consultant. You could take a very smart executive or a very smart person, and they could eventually learn your business. But if you just took somebody who has a very high IQ and just plopped them on your customer support calls, they would not yet know anything about your policies. They wouldn't know anything about your tone, your brand, and they wouldn't know anything about your business and how to solve your customers' problems. They would probably fail pretty hard at customer service, despite being pretty competent and pretty smart. And so the second stage of data training is models that are trained on your public help center, as mentioned. So these are models that aren't just trained on the wealth of information on the internet, but they're starting to narrow their scope and learn about whatever policies you have in your public knowledge base. And again, as mentioned before, this is the most common training technique for what I call RAGs, or retrieval augmented generation based models. And then these again get you further, but don't get you the entire way there. And the last type of AI is AI that is trained on your historical data. And I want folks in the audience to take note of this. There's a subtle distinction between AI that's trained on your public data and AI that's trained on your private data. Not all vendors do both. And so this is a common question you should be asking your AI vendor. What do I mean by this? Well, AI that's trained on your knowledge base, usually you'll have a few hundred articles. These are AI that can only answer based on your knowledge base. When AI is trained on your historical data, you get another level of power that is really important. You get AI that learns from your agent conversations. So what is the tone? What are the things that your agents are saying, your best agents are saying? How does this differ from, your agents with the worst CSAT scores or otherwise? You also get AI that can learn from historical trends. Hey, you're getting a lot of tickets and issues about this topic, and maybe you don't already have a Help Center article about this. Well, AI can then start to flag that. And you can start to see all of the power you can get by having an AI that's actually hooked into your conversation data that can start to learn the workflows, can start to learn the ways to do things right, and actually, in some senses, self-train and self-reinforce over time. Again, this is a powerful technique and one that we're not seeing many vendors apply today. And you can see from our on the screen here that when you actually look across the spectrum, AI that's trained on historical data is far and away better in terms of deflection rate. So it's about 20, 30% higher in terms of deflection rate, better in terms of customer satisfaction, and lower in terms of cost per ticket than any other training method. So remember that if you're choosing an AI vendor and you want to ask a question, one of the questions is, how is this data trained? Is it generally public knowledge data like an LLM? Is it data that's just my public knowledge base? Or is it data that is my private conversation history? Now, a couple things to note before we jump off of this topic is that many AI vendors will claim to train on your historical data. It's on the website, it's that sort of thing. So how do you avoid the gotchas, and why do they say that? Well, some vendors, especially a lot of the newer vendors who don't yet have the infrastructure built out to actually train on your data, when they say they train on your data, what they do is they ask you for, can you give us a data dump, or can you give us information on your historical conversations? And they'll often have a professional services team. So it's literally a team of humans literally sifting through to try and figure out what common problems occur so that they can approximate it or kind of mimic it when they build out the AI manually. So be careful about that. So one bonus question that you should be asking your vendors is, hey, when you say if you say you train on my data, do you do this automatically, or do you have a team of professional services folks in the background? And what that means is typically, usually, and what we found in almost all other vendors is that they have a team in the background looking at the data in order to try and guess what these workflows would be. And that translates into implementation times. That translates into long, drawn-out processes rather than something that is automatic. And again, I'll show you a little bit about how we do that at Forethought. So we've just talked about the question of, should I have an AI model that's trained on public data, my public help center, or private data? And if I do, does the vendor do this automatically, or do they do this with professional services? As I mentioned, with Forethought, we do this automatically from a series of connectors and infrastructure. But again, a lot of the newer solutions who are just cropping up don't have this infrastructure yet. So just be careful when vendors do that. Now, question number 4, should I go with a dedicated solution? So this is extremely important as a question because, again, not all AI, as we've learned from our previous few questions, not all AI is created equal. There are other very important concerns that a dedicated AI vendor will need to take seriously that a lot of other solutions will not actually be thinking about. The first is security and data privacy. Vendors in the AI and CX space need to be experts at data privacy. Whether it's GDPR, CCPA, SOC 2, or other certifications like that, make sure your vendors are extremely compliant because your customer data is extremely important. And as we said earlier, it is important for the vendor to train on customer data. And so how do you reconcile these two things? We want a vendor that can train on customer data, but we want a vendor that is also very, very tight with security and privacy. Well, there are many ways for a dedicated vendor to be extremely great at security and privacy. I mentioned a few others, right? Adhering to protocols, and certifications like SOC 2, GDPR, and CCPA. But there are also some algorithmic techniques that folks like Forethought develop and do in order to keep your data safe. One really cool example of this is data redaction, right? So when ingesting data, it turns out most of the PII, if not all of it, so things like names and emails and stuff like that, don't actually need to be there for the model to train and learn the statistical distribution of answers. And so vendors like Forethought will actually apply a redaction step prior to ingesting or using any of the data, which means all the data that is in our system is redacted, right? And so you want vendors who are doing techniques and leveraging technologies like this in order to add extra layers of security and privacy to your data. The second thing that that dedicated AI vendors need to be great at are integrations. I mentioned in the last topic that you want a vendor that can automatically do agentic workflows. You want a vendor that can automatically integrate and pull in your historical data, rather than vendors who are approximating these things through professional services or through humans in the loop in order to fake an agentic AI. And so dedicated AI solutions like Forethought will have dozens, if not hundreds of connectors. So these are to things like your help desk. These are to things like your CRM, your backend systems, your data lake like a Snowflake or a Databricks or otherwise, as well as knowledge bases. So imagine your Zendesk, your Notion, and so on and so forth. All of these need to be dedicated connectors so that you can pull in the right data and leverage all of the things we talked about already on this webinar. And then the last reason you should go with a dedicated solution is AI acceleration. As I mentioned in the beginning about building things yourself, it actually is really, really hard to handle the long tail of issues that you might get in customer support AI. Dedicated AI vendors have solved hundreds of millions of customer support issues, have worked with hundreds, if not thousands of other support vendors, and can use all of this knowledge to build the best-in-class AI for you. So ultimately, as mentioned, you should go with a dedicated solution. All right. So I went through actually all five. That was faster than I was expecting. I thought I was only at 4. So there are 5 key questions and 5 key gotchas you need to think about when leveraging AI. And it's very important to remember that there's a lot of nuance here. So the first question, should I adopt AI? Resounding yes. If you are a support leader getting at least a few hundred tickets a month, probably at least 1,000 tickets a month, then it is a certain yes that you should adopt AI, but you are very likely to be able to adopt it even sooner. Second, should I build AI myself? The answer is no. These projects typically take longer and are far more expensive than expected, despite the fact that generative AI, particularly retrieval augmented generation solutions, appear to be easy to build to get to at least demo quality RAG-based code. Third, should I leverage my help desk add-on? What we have found is no. There are 3 types of AI: chatbots, retrieval augmented generation or retrieval AI, and agentic AI. And though a lot of the terms like AI agent are thrown around interchangeably, what we found is that most vendors, including and especially including the help desk add-ons, either have chatbots or retrieval AI, but they don't get you the powerful way to the AI agents or the agentic AI that can reason, solve problems, plan, hit APIs, troubleshoot complex problems that most industries actually need. 4, should I go with generic AI built on public data? What we found is the answer is no. Again, if you have public data only, it will hallucinate. If you go with public help center data, it's slightly better, but can only answer FAQs. And then when you go into private historical conversational data trained for you, that is when you get the most powerful AI that can not only resolve issues, but also generate insights and ultimately make your support team into a revenue generating product insights engine. And then lastly, should I go with a dedicated solution? The answer there is a resounding yes, because you want vendors who know the AI and CX space in and out, who care about data privacy, who have integration so it's automatically built out for you and not a professional services project, and who have the latest and greatest AI built in. So hopefully those were actionable insights that you can use when thinking about how to deploy AI, when to deploy AI, and what kind of AI you should be deploying. Now, thank you for listening. What I'm going to do next is show you a demo of Forethought's Autoflows. We talked a little bit in the beginning about our Forethought solution. Let me go back a slide here. We talked a little bit in the beginning about our Forethought solution and what makes Forethought special, particularly that we are fully agentic, which means, again, can take action, hit APIs, troubleshoot, solve that 80% of questions. We are trained on your data, and we're a full AI in CX suite. Right now, I'm going to go into a demo to show you that this stuff is real. I've been saying this whole time that not all AI is created equal, that you can get agentic AI that can do all of those things in an automated fashion without heavy professional services, without faking it. And so what I'm going to go into next is a demo of our Autoflows engine. Autoflows is the name of our fully agentic reasoning engine that allows you to teach an AI agent to be agentic with just natural language, the same way you'd explain to a human agent. So let's dive in to a demo of our Autoflows.
Welcome to Forethought. In this video, we're excited to show you how Autoflows work within Forethought. For this demonstration, we'll use an insurance company called Vouch Insurance. Let's start by heading to the Integrations page on the Forethought dashboard. Here, you'll notice that Web Scraper and Zendesk are already connected to the dashboard. These integrations allow us to build our models directly from your data, encompassing both public help center content and conversation history. You can also set up custom integrations with REST APIs and other databases. For our demo, we've prepared a few examples of actions, including update insurance policy, account lookup, and user ID lookup. Moving on to the workflow builder, you'll see that knowledge retrieval is available by default, provided that you've connected your knowledge sources. This enables Forethought to look up information and respond to user questions in a conversational manner. Here, we also have 2 active autoflows, which enable more powerful workflows, actions, and more. An autoflow is simply a natural language workflow, or prompt explaining what you would do. It's like you are teaching an agent. For instance, we told it to verify a user by their email address when they inquire about account information. Then, on the right side, we can specify the actions we want to be available for this workflow. Here's another autoflow, which is about updating an insurance policy. This is a bit more complex and involves multiple actions. Now that we are familiar with autoflows, let's see it in action. I'll start by asking, what payment methods do you accept? Shortly after, the chatbot provides an answer from our connected knowledge source with a link to a related article. Let's ask another question. Do you accept payment plans? Great. We received another response based on our knowledge sources. The responses look good. But now, let's try something different. We'll ask the chatbot, what is the billing address associated with my account? This jumped into the account info autoflow we saw earlier. We can also see that Forethought recognizes the intent and begins following the policy as prompted here. Now, going back to chat, the chatbot wants to verify our identity by asking for our email address. So we'll type in eric@example.io. The chatbot attempted to perform the user ID lookup action. However, the chatbot was unable to find anything because I purposely typed in a wrong email address. You can also notice that it politely asks again, because our autoflows policy tells it to be polite. Now, let's type in the correct email address. The chatbot tries to perform the user lookup again. And this time, it gets the correct account ID. Then, on the right side, you can see that it plans to take yet another action without being prompted. It executes the policy using a chain of thought, and it looks up the account info from the account ID. Then, it efficiently retrieves all requested information as data. It's also amazing that it remembers that we talked about the billing address before, so it keeps track of our earlier conversation. Then, it neatly organizes this information and clearly shows us the address. Let's ask another question. Upon asking, you'll notice the chatbot continues in the same flow but retrieves different information without requiring you to verify your identity again. It's so easy. Now, let's move on to updating our insurance policy. This action triggers another autoflow that we've explored earlier. In this autoflow, we ask the chatbot to update the user's insurance policy based on their account ID after they verified their identity. For this part, let's input a new insurance policy detail. Following our input, the chatbot successfully updates the policy. And that concludes our demo on Autoflows. If you have any questions, need further assistance, or want to explore more features, please don't hesitate to reach out to your point of contact at forethought.ai.
All right, so that was super cool. Hopefully you found that interesting. Before I dive into the last couple slides here, I want to just quickly talk about some notes that may have been missed as you were seeing the demo. Okay, so a couple things you saw there. One, autoflows were simply natural language instructions. Imagine being able to explain your business logic or your policy or playbook to an agent. Hey, whenever we get account reset issues, here's how you would handle it. Or whenever we get insurance policy questions, here's how you would handle it. And all of these things you can just explain in natural language. Whether you're an agent or a support leader, you can just type it out. You no longer need to use complex decision trees or anything like that. Second, you simply give it access to the actions or the APIs that it has access to, and you let it kind of reason. Uses a technology called chain of thought, which is kind of the core algorithm for agentic AI. And that means it's effectively a language model that's not just about responding to a question, but it's actually asking itself, so to speak, Socratic questions like, hey, if I were an agent, based on this policy that I'm trying to carry out, what's the next action I would do? And it does that in kind of a loop in order to actually make decisions, make plans, and then execute those plans. If it doesn't know something, like for example, in the at the beginning when it was asking for your email address, it will just ask. It knows that it needs email address as one of the inputs to the APIs, so it will simply ask. And so you can see that it's actually mimicking a lot of the reasoning, a lot of the logic that a real human agent would be doing. It's able to take actions and all of this in a safe way based on the specific domain actions you've given it access to for a given autoflow. And then you'll notice it was also able to fully hold the conversation, jump from autoflow to autoflow or intent to intent. Hey, right now we're talking about a simple knowledge, like, do you accept payment plans? It jumped over to, okay, now I need to update. Now I need to update your policy. And okay, now I need to look up your account info. And it was able to remember all of that context and kind of pop back into the conversation, just like a human would if you change topics midway through the conversation. And then the last thing I'll say about that demo is around kind of the controls and the privacy that you're able to give. It's great to think about your AI just like you would think about a human agent. You can control exactly what it has access to, and you can also only provide inputs that the customer provides. So in that example, you saw that the customer provided their email address. We had a very simple contrived example where the database had only a few examples, But again, using that chain of thought technology, our AI should be able to and is able to carry out multiple actions. So in the real world, what you do is once they provide their email address, the next action it would do is verify their email address. And so it can kick off an email, like an email verification, so that the user would have to click or address in their inbox. And then once that verification came through, then that would actually create a token that allows the bot to actually go and carry out all the other actions. So as you can see, you can actually give it the exact kinds of controls that you need, and then it will actually do the chains of actions using that authentication or that token, right? And so what I'm trying to impress upon you is that this technology is extremely powerful, able to allow you to string together multiple actions, make decisions, make plans the same way a human can. Again, this is what gets you that agentic AI, that 60 to 80% resolution rate compared to very simple knowledge-oriented or retrieval augmented generation questions, which you'll see in 99% of vendors. So again, with that agentic AI, hopefully you can see the power and the difference. You also, as I mentioned earlier, should have been able to see our connectors and integrations. Again, that is extremely important when going with a dedicated vendor, that you should be able to connect up all of your systems in a few clicks rather than through professional services. So again, thank you so much for listening on the Autoflows topic. Let me just walk through my last couple slides here. One is a case study, and the other is mostly a thank you. So Upwork is the leading talent marketplace on the planet, and Upwork has reduced their time to resolution by 50% leveraging Forethought. Prior to Forethought, Upwork used a competitive product for their chat widget. And this was, again, a chatbot style product that was manually trained, built on decision trees and workflows. It actually took, according to our contact there, took 1 to 1.5 hours per workflow in order to build out all of the decision tree needed to handle a single intent, like a reset password or, hey, my talent did not show up or whatever. And not only did that have to be created manually for a single workflow, but it had to be created for hundreds of different workflows. Imagine the maintenance time that took. And not only so, but on the front end, users were unhappy because this still gives inaccurate answers. When they partnered with Forethought, they leveraged our complete AI for customer support. They leveraged Solve, which is our AI agent, to truly understand human users and respond to their inquiries using very natural language workflows, as you saw earlier. And they're also leveraging our Assist product, which I did not demonstrate today, but is a part of the solution. They are leveraging our Assist product to surface relevant information from many sources to the human agents so that the human agents can also operate like superhumans. This led to a 90% accuracy in terms of classifying and covering tickets, 50% reduction in time to resolution, and a 70% plus average self-service rate. And so this was a really, really powerful and really cool use case of Forethought in action. We love Upwork and love working with them. All right, so that's really it. If you have any questions, as I mentioned earlier, don't hesitate to go and get your Forethought AI and CX benchmark report. Thank you. And Katie, any closing remarks?
No, this was great. Thanks so much, Dion. We did have a few questions in the chat. I know we're pretty pressed for time, so I'm just going to go to the most recent one here, and it's from Kamlesh, and he says, when using a dedicated AI solution, managing knowledge, I'm assuming knowledge bases gets difficult to keep in sync with AI models and updates. Can you address the pros and cons related to knowledge bases?
Amazing. So this is a really important question, and again, it also shows you the difference between a reasonably mature AI product and one that's really just getting started. A lot of if you're using one of these kind of very, very, very new, like built in the last 6 months or year types of products, they lack integrations. But here at Forethought, and I think there are actually many vendors who do this well, what you want is a solution that automatically integrates and syncs with your knowledge base. So for example, in the demo you may have seen earlier, we automatically connected to a website, and we also automatically connected to the Zendesk using simple APIs. Our approach is that we actually re-index every 30 minutes. And so this gives you a near real-time approach where our model is always synced with your latest knowledge base. So if somebody goes in and makes a change to an article, that gets resynced incrementally to our system within 30 minutes. So the bot will start to automatically resolve issues using that new issue. Similarly, we also, because we're not just based on your knowledge base, but we're based on your past conversations, our bot is effectively self-reinforcing by pulling in the most recent conversations as well. So every 30 minutes, getting the latest. And then nightly, we do a broader insights job through our product we call Discover, which tells you trends over the last day, which tells you, hey, are you missing any knowledge base articles? Ironically, we will actually identify questions that have come in where there are no good knowledge base articles and even suggest or write that for you. That's all part of our Discover Insights platform. So if you have the right vendor, that issue, Kamlesh, that you're mentioning actually should not be an issue, but that is definitely something you want to make sure you're asking your vendors, how often are they syncing with the knowledge base?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dion. I want to be cognizant of time. I know we had a few other questions in the Q&A. I will follow up with you guys one-on-one and make sure we get answers to y'all's questions if they weren't already answered in the presentation. But thank you guys for spending an hour of your afternoon with us. Happy CX Day, everyone. And we will see you on our next Forethought webinar. Have a great afternoon, everybody.